our pledge of allegiance. Flag is in the back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Dr. Goldberg, will your roll call, please? Yes. Mrs. Gilligan? Present. Mrs. Lohr? Ms. Lauer?
Present.
Dr. Powers?
Present.
Mrs. Scott?
Here.
Mrs. Wise?
Present.
Mr. Irwin?
Present.
Thank you. We are going to talk about the first preliminary determination hearing regarding the high schools, and Dr. Hayward, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. Good evening, community members. We do have a couple of seats left up here in the front for those that are coming in. You know, with only a few fingertips at Google, you can find that this conversation really began in April of 2017. And if you look even farther at some of the meeting notes of the board, you can date that back even into 2016. But I believe our community's been talking about these high school projects for more than 5 years. Whenever I go around, I talk to people, I meet with people. The high school facilities have been an issue long before that. You've probably heard them yourselves. Whether that's a discussion on flat rooftops, science labs, auditoriums, no natural light, lack of square footage in the classroom, heating issues, cooling issues, or maybe in the same period, both heating and cooling issues, plumbing, swimming pools, and that list goes on and on and on. So those discussions have been going on much longer than 5 years. Now here we are at the end of 2021, getting ready to hope for and have a brighter 2022. And at the same time contemplating whether to place a high school project on a ballot. What should be the size of that project if we are to place it on a ballot? What is the scope of that project if we are to place it on a ballot? What's the impact of that project if we are to place it on a ballot? This conversation is happening as another wave of COVID sweeps across the country, sweeps across this community. This conversation is happening as we feel the impact of gas and milk prices and all those prices in between. We're having this conversation as business faces labor and supply chain shortages, and as the American farmer sees U.S. food prices rise, but profits fall. And yes, we're having this conversation at a time when we've not had much experience with this increasing inflation. But there is optimism. Money can be borrowed at historically low rates. As we face this conversation, with optimism regarding this county, at least in my short time period here, that has never been higher. Because here's what's happening. Discussion phase is turning to the construction phase in Vigo County. So we face this conversation as we grow to understand also that we must be constantly looking to attract and retain talent within our community. Also, I recognize that we're not facing the American Civil War. But I think we would all agree that the times are tough, and maybe some of the toughest that we've seen in a while. And so I'm reminded of a Abraham Lincoln quote. This quote was given to the Congress, doing it in a hearing for a building project. But listen to the words. The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. This occasion, this time, leadership in Vigo County is piled high with difficulty. In my 20 years experience, I've never seen a school board presented with so many challenges as this board has been presented with. COVID, bringing technology to the district in record fashion. More COVID. Deficit spending, more COVID. Operational referenda, more COVID. Long overdue mandate and funding to raise beginning teacher salaries to $40,000 and COVID. And that list goes on and on. And for us right now, it seems that COVID goes on and on. I don't think anybody would fault us. No, that's probably not true. I'm sure there would be some people that would fault us. But at least I might understand why we would want to place facilities on the back burner once again. We've been through enough. But what I have found in most boards is that they choose to run for school board in order to make a difference. And at this moment, and at this time, I believe there is a difference to be made here. As such, I would turn your attention now to the PowerPoint presentation. If you look at the strategic plan, what you'll find is that we're a year behind. That slide should have read spring 2020. But we were derailed by COVID. So here we are a year later. And in the spring, we had 8 community meetings, 3 high school staff meetings, and multiple civic meetings. At those meetings, we presented 8 options to those who attended. And the VCSC asked attendees to identify themes, models, and concerns regarding the high schools. Overwhelmingly, those that attended, this is what they said. They wanted 3 high schools, although there was several that wanted a 4th. They did not want a Band-Aid fix to major structural projects. Our community wants high school facilities that support trades, that support hands-on learning, STEM, and enhanced technology. Community wants flexible, collaborative spaces in all classrooms. We were doing pretty good until we got to that last one. Our community wants to limit tax impact, but wants a significant project. So we approach those meetings with these 8 concepts. You notice concepts 1, 2, and 3 are built around a 3 high school model. The others are not. We went in to those community meetings that were very well attended. We also talked about ESSER. When you see that word ESSER, think about federal funds that we received because of COVID. Those federal funds will allow us to lessen the tax impact on a project. When we finished up with the first round of data collection, we went through our data. And if you attended any of those meetings, you probably remember those. You had green badges for things that you agreed with and red stickers for those things that you didn't agree with. And no mega school received well over 400 responses that this community does not want a mega school. In fact, I think we even stopped counting them. The 3 high school models split between new and renovated. 303 people supported new, 42 supported renovated. None opposed new renovation, but 252 opposed renovation. I should say, none opposed new construction, 252 opposed renovation. What surprised us was this career concept model, in which it got overwhelming support. And then, as a surprise, the 4 high school model, you can see we had almost split, 50-50, 150 people supported, 108 people opposed. So we took that information and then brought it into the fall. And in the fall, we've had 2 virtual meetings, 9 in-person community meetings in November. We did some thought exchange opportunities. We did some paper survey opportunities. As of December 1st, we had 1,336 patrons who had viewed the virtual meeting on YouTube. We did e-blast to families, encouraging them to watch the virtual meetings and then follow that up with a thought exchange. We did other surveys. And here's the information that we found. 132 participants, 157 thoughts shared, 2,014 thoughts that were rated. And it was to the question, do you believe 3 high schools are the right path forward for our community? And you can see the reaction. Not only did they believe 3 high schools, but they want 3 new high schools. And then you can see some of the lowest rated thoughts. No 4 high schools. No, 4 high schools is much more effective use of money. No, shrinking population and tax base. 2 new schools, and those received the lowest ratings. You also see this, thought exchange. 118 participants, 124 thoughts shared, 1,982 thought ratings. And again, the same thing. Option 3, option 3, option 3 garnered the highest support. Option 1, option 2, the lowest. We also did a series of let us know paper surveys. And we did that at West Vigo High School, Terre Haute High School, Terre Haute North High School, and you can see how those shaked out. Some community meetings, that area on the end, that might be a meeting with Morning Optimist Club. That could be a presentation that was done at Regional Hospital or at Union Hospital. But the others were done in the buildings. We also did a parent survey. 673 respondents as of 12/1/21. What we found from those parents is that they think our buildings are in poor condition, but they favor option 1 over option 2, and option 2 over option 3. Then on November 29th and 30th, we hired a professional polling group. And we sent them out to ask some questions. And here's how they gathered their information. Landline, cell phone, text to voice. Their charge, they had to connect with 300 voters in Vigo County. Their charge was to connect to general election voters, and here's who they got a hold of. 24% had voted in one of the last 4 general elections. 14.4, 2 of the last 4. 29.7, 3 of the last 4. 31.9, 4 of the last 4. We asked this question: do you think your property taxes are too high? I've lived in a lot of districts, and I've never found that district anywhere that thinks that their property taxes are too low. So I do think that 2.9 folks on the end, I'd like to thank them. We asked this question: how familiar are you with the recent community discussion regarding renovations or new construction? And this one we want to leave a marker in our minds, because I'll come back and talk about that. So you'll see 20% very, 37.2% somewhat, heard about it, 26.2%. I'll take that in terms of how you can get a message out to the community. Would love to have seen more of the heard abouts and the somewhats, and more of the somewhats and the very. Their message was resonating in our community. Thinking about Vigo County Public High Schools, which of the following comes closest to your own personal opinion? Well, we're pretty much split right down the line. 27.2 thought, let's just do renovation. 30.2, let's do new and renovation. 20.4, let's do complete rebuilds. 5.8, we don't need renovation. And that 16.4, don't know or refuse to answer. So here's where we got into 3 different scenarios. So this scenario is going to measure option 1 at $3. That $3 reflects the average home in Vigo County and what their tax increase impact of option 1 would be. And you'll see, we could win that one tomorrow. If we took that to our community, we could win that one tomorrow. If you look in that bottom corner, you'll see 60% and 37%. You see that down there? That's when you ask how familiar you are with the project. And so when we looked at that group that was familiar or somewhat familiar, it changed the way we looked at that data, but only slightly. In fact, I think it actually hurts, because if you're familiar or very familiar, you're only going to get a 0.5% bump for support, and you're going to lose about 3% against. Option 2. For the average homeowner, that would be the impact monthly. And so what you see here is almost a polarizing situation. 50% saying yes, 50% saying no. Actually, it's a little below 50%. But take a look at that 54 and 43. If you knew about the condition of the buildings, or you somewhat knew about the condition of the buildings, it would change the dynamic of our chances to win. Now, this is a heartbreaker for most people that actually attended a meeting. And why I say that is that if you attended a meeting, heard a presentation, overwhelmingly you wanted option 3. You came in, you listened to the presentation, you walked out, you wanted option 3, 3 brand new high schools. But what this data pool shows is there's really no way forward at this time with option 3. We tested the 2 high school concept. See that it was not appreciated at all. And we tested the 4 high school concept. Did a little better than the 2 high school concept. It's still not in an area where I could say we should pursue that. I threw that slide in because when you go to vote, that's the question that you would have to read. That's what it looks like. I mean, if you think you'd get past the first sentence. I just show you that so that you'll understand that if we take a project forward, we have to educate people on the question. Here represents a change, and this is a change that occurred, we found out probably mid-November, when we found out that our assessed valuation, our assessed AV, was going to decline from 2021 to 2022. And so we had been out talking to our community saying that's the impact of option 1, that's the impact of option 2, and that's the impact of option 3. When we got the assessment, we had to change that impact. What I'm going to try to show you is the significance of that. So in the questions that were used in polling, what we really said was the $3, the $7, and the $10, again, for that average home. When we added the higher assessment, our question still held true. We were still under the $3, the $7, and the $10. So this is, board, option 1 that I would like for you to consider. Option 1, as we're talking about it here, ends the operational referenda in 2024. You'll recall That operational referenda is 1622. In this $160 million referenda, by taking that away, and then by adding 0.0911, you would actually get the cost of this referenda. And what you would do is you would add 16 to 9, and you would know that the cost of that is 25 cents. So let's take a look, and this is a model. Don't go home and write your relatives or post something or saying, hey, this is what this school is going to look like. It just gives you an image of what our approach would be in an option 1, and this is south. So if you think about it, that's Booker T. Planetarium. So we've shifted the front of the building. And so what would be new are these 2-story academic wings, and then we would look to renovate the rest of the facility. We would have to use that space under the cap to do that. But when we talk about renovation, we're talking about renovation to the stud, pulling it all the way back to the stud. Anybody recognize that location? Those are the swimming pools. So in option 1, if you're looking at description, here is the referenda. Here is other dollars we're going to need to finish the project, and that is under the cap. So estimated borrowing amount in option 1, $158 million. See what the tax impact of that would be, and occurs only if we end the operational referenda early. This is the 260 referenda. Same thing, that purple. Sorry about that. That purple, that represents under the cap. We talk about our debt service, that's about 21 cents. That 16 cents is what you're currently paying for the operational referenda. And what we're saying is for 25 cents more, we could bring a $260 million referenda to our community. This is what 260 is. This is what's representing a $260 million referenda. This is again south, 2-story construction, renovation of the gym areas, auditorium areas. And again, this is another view of the pool. And so I don't want it to be lost that the renovation of the pool is back to the stud type of renovation. It's just not new paint, new lighting. This is the summary, and you'll see that there are not 2 columns or 3 columns, there are only 2. This option does not require us to use any of those dollars under the cap. So this is option 2. In option 2, this yellow, that represents the operational referenda. This darker blue is our current debt service with a rate of 21 cents. And what we know is debt is going to start to roll off. This would be the referenda up here that would be attacking new facility. My question is, when we're considering that, these are the rest of our buildings. You can see the grades that are found there. Some pretty high, some pretty low. Option 1, which we have seen, we could win that tomorrow, allows us to address things that have to be addressed at the high school. But what it does, it puts projects up against one another in terms of what's the next project that we're going to pull from under the cap. And it may not even be a high school project. It may be something that happens at one of our middle schools or one of our elementary schools. And so when we think about this slide right here, board, that's why I do include it as a generational decision, because I think that's really what you're facing. So that concludes my slide presentation. You know, the community is very fortunate that these board members know their way around their high school buildings. They've even worked there, been a student there, combination of those. Maybe went there and their children went there, or maybe have children coming in the near future to attend there. So they have a unique perspective that I think they could bring to this situation. I've heard it said, and I believe it is true, and that is this, that education is our greatest opportunity to give an irreversible gift to the next generation. If we went to public school, how many went to public school? If you went to public school, somebody helped pay for that gift. Now your mom, your dad probably bought your book bill, probably brought your equipment. They didn't pay for your teacher, or at least not all of that teacher. They didn't pay for the bus driver, or at least not all of that bus driver. They didn't pay for the nurse, or at least part of that nurse. If you went to public school, someone helped pay the way for your gift. Someone that maybe didn't even have kids in school at no time. Maybe it was a next door neighbor. Maybe it was a business down the street. But they all work to contribute to our children's education. Garfield or Gersmeyer, Wiley or Glenn, Honey Creek or Fayette, and on and on and on, and somebody helped pay it forward. That's what communities do. They pay it forward with the hope of sustainability. And our buildings have lasted 50 and 60 years. But they pay it forward with the hope of sustainability, and that it meets the needs of our present children without compromising the ability of our future children and their needs. I think that's the question that is in front of this board and this community. It's one that deserves to be talked about. So I believe at this point, we will open the meeting up for public comment. I would request that you address your comments to the board if you have a comment to make. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. And so as I sit down, we'll take the first comment.
Superintendent, can everybody hear me okay? Superintendent Hayworth, President Lauer, members of the Board of Trustees, my name is Leo Myers. I'm a taxpayer in Weaver County. I'm coming to you tonight with a request to postpone the referendum until the fall election. I know we've been talking about having it be on the spring ballot. Here are my reasons why. At this point, we'll only have under 4 months to educate the public as to why they should vote for this referendum. Primary turnout is historically low. In 2018, the last time that the positions that are being elected this 2020 were elected before, it was only a 20% turnout. And I don't think we want just 20% of the voting population to be making a decision on this. We want to have as many voters as possible to be coming up and making this choice. If we do this referendum in the general election, you might be able to convince more people that this is the right thing to do, and because more people vote in the fall. And I do want to point out, I've been following school corporation policies and information for a long time. And this subject of the high schools has been talked about since 2009, when the original Schmidt Associates report came out. And after certain parts of that program were done, the document was put on the shelf until it was pulled up again, I think in 2012. So just to be clear, this is something that we've been talking about for a long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hayworth, President Lauer, School Board. Me, Ryan Easton, I come to you as husband of a teacher, a father of 3 high schoolers. I think you puked just saying that loud. 2 are seniors, a son of a retired teacher, a son of a bus driver, and an 18-year educator in the classroom, and now 5 years as principal. I'm not coming up here as a principal. I'm coming up to you as a leader of a building that is trying to provide opportunity for both staff and students. Before I get to opportunity, I just want to talk real quick about the buildings themselves. We've all been through them. We know, we've seen. So I'm not going to bore you with that. But some things that you haven't seen that we see on a daily basis is not provided. I walk down the hallway, and I've got an English class in the hallway trying to do research because there's not enough support for networking. I have to find EAs and assistant principals and myself to escort middle school students to the high school to use the restroom because we've got Lake Vezlowski and Pearson Pond outside. Well, that's an outside problem. No, it's not. Not when I got students having to leave a 6th grade English class to use a bathroom to come to the high school. It's not the field trip we want. We leave that for coronation. Okay? Heavy rains, we know where the trash cans are going to be. Or even the dumpsters, not even the trash cans, because it might be a long weekend. And we can go on and on about that, and I'm not going to bore you. But as a principal, it is my job to provide culture and safety in the building. Teachers teach, let them do their thing, and I'm telling you right now, our teachers are unbelievable. We are second to none in education. I go to a principals meeting at WIC, principals, I kind of get in a shell and kind of keep my mouth shut because all I would do is brag because, you know, these schools have 3 and 4 pathways. We've got a school of 4. Holy smokes. 14 pathways. But what could we provide if we had bigger and better things? And to think that if we just always waited and waited and waited, I would never have asked my wife on a date. I would never have been married. I've never bought a house. And I'd never have kids. And I sure as heck would never have been a principal if I waited for the right time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Laura Kane. I'm a science teacher at West Vigo High School. I'm also the mother of a West Vigo High School graduate, a mother of a current West Vigo High School senior, and a West Vigo Middle School 6th grader. So as you can see, I have a very vested interest in the Vigo County schools. I've written all this down because I have a lot to say and a short amount of time to do it. I teach biology in the same classroom I myself took biology. I have to say it was in far better shape back when I was a student than when I am teaching in it. It is not conducive. My gas lines have been shut down because I don't have an emergency shut-off, so I can't do any kind of labs with a Bunsen burner. I have to do all of my labs with a hot plate, so I have to get very creative. 5 lab stations, if you want to call them lab stations. They are counters that are only lining 2 of my walls. These counters are 5 feet long and have a sink in between each station. 2 of the sinks have a constant drip, which I'm glad to at least have water after waiting a year to get water back in that room. This setup would work not so well, but okay if you had students of maybe 16 sitting in your classroom, not the average of 23 to 30 that I have. This makes doing labs very difficult for my students and even harder for me to get in and help those groups or to even see what they're doing. The technology is just short of ancient in my room and many of the other classrooms. My projector does not show all of the colors. I have to go over and wiggle my cords, and that only lasts a few minutes. This is very hard when I'm trying to teach cells or heredity or any of those things, because the students cannot distinguish differences by seeing different colors. My screen projector is only 5 foot wide, so what I can project up there is very small. Very hard for the students that are sitting in the back of my classroom at 22 feet away. Another difficulty that we have is the temperatures of my classroom. I have 2 settings, the temperature or the surface of the sun or the Arctic. When students are too hot or too cold, they simply shut down. At the pace that we are expected to teach and they are to learn, this is very detrimental to our students. We have and will continue to have HVAC, technology, and plumbing issues because our buildings are older. They need serious updates to meet the needs of not only the current and future students. Teachers are always asked to step up for the sake of the students, and we always rise to that challenge. We are now asking for support from everyone else so that we can get the best learning environment and technology so that we can better meet the needs of your children, grandchildren, our students, who are also our kids.
Kevin Southwood. I've asked on several times that I've been to these school board meetings, that I wanted to see a cost of, if you own a $50,000 house, 60, 70, up to 100, 150, 200. This is what you're paying now for the year. This is what you're gonna pay when option 1 comes, option 2 comes, option 3. And then I would know on what option, what I'm paying now, and what I'm going to have to pay, and how long it's going to take. Is it going to take 20 years? Is it going to take 25 years, or whatever? I haven't seen that. I've seen decimal points and percentage points, and you're talking to somebody that operates down on a low level. I need it simple. I've asked for a tax assessor to be present here. I don't think that's asking too much. Our most massive tax hike in our history. And a tax assessor should have been open and in front. For us to pay our most massive tax costs, he should have been up here saying, this is how many people that are thrown out into the house, out of their homes right now. This is how many people that's going to increase by. And I feel that, I want high schools, but I also feel that there's ramifications. You're declaring a war on the poor. The poor that get thrown out of their houses, they can't afford it. You could offer a program, if you're gonna have to pay this and you don't have the money, we're not gonna throw you out of your house, but you have to do labor, at say $15 an hour to save your house. They don't have that option. They get thrown out of their house, and then rent's gonna go up. They won't be able to afford rent. And after that, there'll probably be more crime, and they'll fill up the jails. And then whenever you look at what causes crime in Bible County, it could very well be the people who vote that declared war on the poor has brought about the more costs of jails to where our own decisions affect people on the low end of the spectrum.
Hi, my name is Tim Murphy. I'm the band director and the music department chair at Terrell South. I have a son that graduated recently. He will not get to enjoy the benefits that we decide, but I am still willing to pay the cost as a taxpayer. Our facilities were designed for a different time and a different era with different requirements. Band, for example, didn't go out and compete like it does now. Some of the needs that we have, we need larger rooms, we need a dedicated orchestra room and guitar room. We have a teacher at South who is traveling with a cart from room to room, and then sometimes that room gets canceled and they have to go to a hallway somewhere. We need a keyboard lab. This is my 26th year teaching, and there was a dedicated 30-station piano lab at my first teaching job, and we don't have piano labs. We need more practice rooms. We need more storage. We were blessed to have a large purchase of instruments a couple of years ago, and some of those are stacked around the doorways because we don't have enough locker space. We need better access for loading and unloading. Of course, the auditorium upgrades we're all familiar with. The same seats have been there since 1971, and some of them don't work anymore, and most of them greet you by making a sound. Please consider this worthwhile endeavor for the kids, because they're our future.
Good evening, Merry Christmas, everyone. Chris Barrett, Dean of Students at North. This needs to happen. As a dean who works daily with safety and security issues, there's things, I know everyone's been in the schools, they've seen the infrastructure, seen all the issues, and you can imagine what that leads to, but we see what it leads to daily with the safety and security issues. You know, when we're dealing with the discipline issue, kids truant from class, and we track them down, and he tells me he's been to 3 restrooms before he could find one that was open or one that was working. It's awful hard to give that kid discipline for skipping class, so we typically would just get them to where they need to be without a discipline. Kids wearing coats or blankets in class down the hallway presents other safety and security issues that we have to deal with. We have to take these things into consideration. Is the kid going to be disciplined for violating that rule when he's freezing to death in class? I think not. But then again, what's he stashing in that coat? You know, these are things we have to think about. And when the doorknob falls off the classroom, there's 30 people in that classroom, and all of a sudden the fire alarm goes off, we've got another issue. Okay, because sometimes it takes a while for our maintenance guy to get to that room to get that fixed. We've not had that situation, thank goodness, but I'm just presenting a hypothetical that very well could happen, because you'd be surprised how many times the doorknob falls off the classroom. A lot of issues, you know, we're running out of duct tape. I think we should buy stuff in duct tape or wiring, things like that. Our classrooms or our buildings need, we can't put this off any longer. You know, I could talk way longer than 3 minutes, but again, most of you are aware of the issues. You know, I just think this needs to happen ASAP, both from a climate perspective in the classroom. We want these kids to learn and to have every advantage. Our kids know when they go to other schools and they see the facilities, they know when they come back to ours that they are slighted, that they're not getting the best. And that's what we should want from my perspective. Our kids deserve the best like any other student in any other school corporation. They're not getting that. That's nobody's fault in here. We are where we are. This needs to happen ASAP, because the more we put this off, we'll still have the same issues a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, in regard to, is it the right time? The right time was probably 10 years ago. This needs to happen now, and I thank you for your time.
name is Rick Berger, a taxpayer and a parent that put 2 boys through the Eagle County schools. Both of them very successful in their job. One is a lineman today, and another will be a diesel mechanic. So thank you for providing a great education for 2 great men. Having served on the Lafayette School Board many years ago, I've sat in your position. We had to make tough decisions then too, closing schools, renovating, building. We made the right choice 20 years ago. Go and look at Lafayette as a good example. But today, we're at the crossroads here to address high school facilities for the delivery of the 21st century of education in Eagle County. We are there, and I know you are too as board members. We need to right-size our needs, and I believe you are. I like the thoughts of building partnerships with corporations, building a career center, working with all trades. I believe we have a great group of teachers, administrators, and support staff. I've seen it, and we've all seen it, and we're lucky to have that. In the last referendum, I helped with that. I believe in this one too. And most important, the board and administration has met all of those promises that we made on that referendum. And I'm proud to say that too. I feel Superintendent Hayworth and team has worked very hard to have these community meetings and open communication. I don't think you want another meeting, do you, Ron? Okay. Will this be an easy task? Nope. We know that. But I think we're up to the challenge. But we must invest in our kids' education. A community who values education is a thriving community. I will join the many who have already pledged to help tell our story, because I'm part of your team. We're all one team. We're one village here. To tell our story and share why doing nothing is not an option. I would like to end on these. I'm a guy with quotes always, so here's your quote. They're called the 3 C's of life. Choices, chances, and changes. You must make the choice to take a chance if you want anything in life to change. Thank you.
Good evening. Happy New Year. Whoops. My name is Brian Koistra, and I'm with Garmong Construction. Garmong is a Terre Haute-based construction company celebrating its 99th year in business, and I am here in support of the proposed improvements to the high schools. As a local business leader, the importance of a strong school corporation cannot be overstated. While there are numerous reasons why this is the case, I will share one example we encounter on a regular basis. Our company has grown significantly over the years. With growth comes the challenge of talent attraction, which typically centers around a few components. One of these components is the quality of educational opportunities available to a prospective employee's children. A school corporation that not only offers excellent educators, which I feel this one does, but also excellent facilities, is critical to a company's ability to attract talent. Like Rick, I'll offer a quote. Winston Churchill said it best, in that while we shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. As such, I would like to voice support for option 2. Option 2 strikes the right balance in terms of timing, scope, and fiscal responsibility. This option will provide the type of educational facilities that our community requires without going beyond our means, or conversely, selling ourselves short. All the while affording the ability to maintain and improve the existing facilities in the years to come.
Decisions like these are never easy, but are necessary. As an investment today in our education facilities will yield a future return measured by the growth and success of our community as a whole. I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts and thank each of you for your service to the community. Thank you.
Good thing about going last is that people covered a lot of the stuff I would have covered, so that's good. My name is John Collette. A little background on me: Warren, Terre Haute, Davis Park, Sanderson, Davis Park, Woodrow Wilson, North, Rose-Hulman. So my entire academic career is in Terre Haute. With the exception of a short stint in the military, because I paid for Rose-Hulman, I've worked here all my life. Yeah, I knew pretty quickly after I got there that I needed to know. We have to do something. Doing nothing is not an option. I mean, we looked at the grades. They were what, D, D, and F? They were D, D, and F. They were D, D, and F 10 years ago. They weren't when I was in school. I'm old enough to know, that they were pretty nice when I was in school, but that's a long time ago. Why is the time now? Well, we just put it off too long. We owe it to our teachers and our students, and you heard about that already. But we owe our community, and we owe it to our businesses. I'm the current chair of the chamber, and a lot of the thoughts I hear are about attracting businesses to our community. Why do we have population? Why would we have population growth? The reason you have population growth is you attract businesses, and one of the first things is they look at the schools, because they want to attract the best employees. They want to attract the best talent to our area. Well, are you really going to give them a tour of North or South or West Vigo? A true tour, not we'll go by this area and this area. I don't think you would. So we have to do it. I'll wrap this up. The referendum, primary versus a general, I think we should do primary. I think we should do it as soon as possible. I mean, from just a passing the referendum standpoint, my opinion, passing is easier in the primary than the general. Because I think my own personal opinion is the primary voters seem to be more engaged. I heard it's a tough decision. You don't have a tough decision. You do not. Now, the decision to do something is not tough. The tough decision is to decide to do more. Obviously, I'd like to do even more than what was presented. Everyone would. But I don't think there's a chance in hell that we're going to pass that.
30 seconds.
So if we can't pass that, we can pass option 2. And that'll take a lot of work, and I think Rob knows that. That'll take a lot of education to get option 2 through. But we know we can get option 1 if you just truly just want to do the minimum amount. That's an option. But option 2 is where our community, in my opinion, wants this to go.
That's time.
Ladies and gentlemen, been to the classic basketball game. West Vigo did beat Shakamak, so I'm happy. And I'm happy for you folks. What an incredible couple of years you've had. Mr. Hayworth has pointed out all the things that you've had to go through. And now we're at a tough decision. It is incredibly tough. We elect a treasurer to take care of our money. We elect a clerk of the court to take care of our court business. And we elect school board members to take care of our school business. You have made this process as plain and open as possible. If a rummy like me can understand it, most people can, and I appreciate that. It's not always been that way, But by golly, you've done everything. What disappoints me, it makes me sick. Some of the surveys, 124 people? That should have been 1,000 people. I went to many of the meetings I could go to. 20, 30 people at each meeting. There should have been 300 or 400 people here. This is important to us. So I'm not disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in my fellow citizens that should have came and listened. And the people that didn't come will complain the loudest. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. But anyway, for what it's worth, I'm vote for 3. We need new schools. I saw one figure that said 5% of the people didn't think we need anything done. Let them come with me. We'll go out to the restroom at West Vigo High School, and they can help me clean up the human waste. I was a janitor there for 5 years. Sometimes at a concession stand, and back up to your knees. That's human waste. I went to high school there in 1969. I watched them build it in 1959. It leaked in 1969. It leaks the same places today. We need a new high school. If you renovate it, do the best you can. It really needs it. That's not a joke. That's not dramatize things. We need a new high school. It's been a great high school. 60 years, my gosh. My mom and dad's house, beautiful house. 60 years it was done. They tore it down. But anyway, thank you for the time and effort you put in. I'm disappointed that there wasn't more feedback, but thank you for doing your job.
Is there anybody else from the audience that would like to address the board?
The last speaker's name, please.
Brad Kessler.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Hayworth, would you like to have the...
Yeah, so I would ask the board permission to move the next hearing to the 13th off of our reorganization meeting on the Monday. I think this issue, as you can see by the great turnout that we've had here, bears the importance of a standalone meeting, just like this received a standalone meeting. So I will work to pull the board to see if we can move a meeting to the 13th. Understand what would happen on the 13th if the board approves one of the options. It would then start the motion for it to be placed on a May ballot. So that's what we're kind of up against in terms of time. So I'd be asking the board to move a meeting to the 13th. What we do on our opening meeting is we elect officers. We do more mechanical types of pieces, and I think we want another opportunity for this type of great discussion. So I will pull the board later to see if that works for the board.
So as a reminder, we will have a meeting on January the 5th at Meadows School at 6:30 in the evening. And on the 10th, we will have a regular board meeting. And then on the 13th, we will have another determination hearing regarding high school. Any other comments from the board? Let me remind you, as I always do, that the Smithsonian exhibit is still available Tuesday through Friday, 11 to 4, and Saturday,